Hannah, let's begin with you first of all. You served in the army for 8 years, and 2 days before your 4-month tour of Iraq was due to end, you sustained horrific injuries. What happened to you?
I was on guard, and the guard room that I was in took a direct hit from a mortar. And my leg was the most serious injury that I had. I spent 3 years in a wheelchair, right, and then had my leg amputated in 2010.
You were given a 1 in 10 chance of survival.
Yeah, the operation went wrong, and I ended up in a medically induced coma in intensive care, which was when I was in the bed opposite Rick.
So, yes, because we're trying to figure out the timeline here, because it was 3 years later, after your terrible injuries, that Rick was in Afghanistan, and you'd been, I think, 6 months into your tour of Afghanistan, and you're on a foot patrol, weren't you?
That's right, yeah. Just a routine foot patrol. I ended up stepping on a pressure plate IED, and, you know, unfortunately sustained the injuries that I've got today, losing both legs and a lot of other internal injuries. I almost lost my right arm as well. I went into that coma and, again, without knowing, was across from Hannah, and it all started.
So it was your parents, actually, that started talking first of all, because you're both, as you say, in the unit, in your beds, and they began talking.
Yeah, they were. So there was only 2 relatives allowed by the bedside at any time, and so our families were in the waiting room outside of the intensive care unit, and little did we know, obviously, they were talking to each other.
Time ago.
And the reason, the timing, this 3 years, is because you were having extra, 3 years after, you were having this extra work done on your leg.
I was having my leg amputated.
Yeah.
It was the actual amputation, and the surgery went wrong. And I ended up getting sepsis, which is how I ended up on life support.
So, at that point, when you were in there at the same time, you guys didn't meet or talk, did you?
No.
No.
So it was just your parents just chatting outside, waiting in the family room and that sort of thing. So when was the first time that you actually saw each other?
I remember I went to Headley Court first, which is the military rehabilitation centre where all injured soldiers go. And the first time I saw Rick was when Rick was brought in by ambulance, and I remember seeing him come off the ambulance. And then we'd see each other around the rehabilitation centre, because obviously you were all in lessons together. And so you all sort of get to know each other.
But nothing more than that, because you were in a committed relationship at the time. You also, so this was just a sort of friendship of 2 people going through similar things at the time. Your relationship broke down, as did yours, and you both lived a single life for a long time. You were single for about 4 years, right? You said
pretty much.
A really tough time. You found that people couldn't see beyond the injuries.
Yeah, I dated a few times, and there were some who could, but I did find that there were people who definitely looked at me differently because of being in a wheelchair, and I think people presume that you need a lot of taking care of, and you sort of need a carer around, which obviously isn't the case.
No.
And what was the dating scene like for you?
It was interesting. There was just nobody. I think when you've been through something like myself and Rick have been through, you become quite a unique person, and so to find somebody that was my match was quite difficult. And I went on a few quite nice dates, but there was nobody that
understood.
Sort of, yeah.
No, absolutely. And Rick, it was you. Sorry.
Go on.
It was you, first of all, that spotted her on social media. And did you know at the time that it was that girl that you'd seen at the rehabilitation centre?
Yeah, I'd had her on my Facebook for a while, but not really contacted, and with her being on the island and a few other things, and her book Never Broken, she was on my feed quite a lot, and I just thought I'm going to send her a message and sort of say well done on everything that you're doing, and I'm kind of proud, and sort of reconnect a little bit, and that's where it kind of began again.
Well, you're about to go on holiday to Spain, so the entire time that you're actually on holiday, you're desperately trying to find Wi-Fi spots so that you can contact each other. So
you
this
definitely reconnected.
Is getting more and more intense, and then when you got back, you met up, and was it like a spark? Was there true love?
I'd say there was a spark. We initially sort of planned to meet about a week later, but that got brought forward, I think, by the time we got back off holiday. So it was only 2 or 3 days after the holiday, I think, and then, yeah, immediately you could tell we got on really well. We're already very close, like best friends, and I think I've had some, you know, appreciate the partners I've had in the past, but I don't think I've ever really had one that's been a best friend. And I think we've kind of got that.
What do you mean to each other? What does she mean to you?
I think the fact that we've been through so much, we can appreciate that from each other. Obviously there's the physical injuries and we understand things about that nobody else can, but also Hannah's got the element of the post-traumatic stress disorder now. I'm very fortunate that I don't suffer from that, but I understand it through my charity working with people, and I can support her a lot more than I guess your average person can through that. And altogether, it just, you know, it really works, and we've got that military banter too.
What does he mean to you?
Yeah.
He's one of the most important people in my life, and he is my best friend, and he makes me incredibly happy, and I'm so glad. I feel like after everything we've both been through that maybe this is our chance at real happiness.
Well, you're putting a lot back
so
in,
nice.
as well as this wonderful story. You're working tirelessly for various charities. You've got a veterans charity, which you're working on. Interesting one for you. You're campaigning to allow soldiers to freeze their sperm before they go away, so that if they do receive the sort of injuries that you got, there is a chance of a family in the future.
Yeah, it's something obviously. You know, it is quite rare, the injuries that I've suffered, but there are quite a lot out there who would have benefited if they'd sort of done that before. It certainly wasn't discussed before I deployed, and I now believe, thanks to the campaign I've done so far, that the troops get sort of told that it might be something that they want to do.
Yeah.
You're about an hour and a half away from each other. You don't live together. What's the chances of you getting a bit closer?
Well, good in the future, definitely. It's something we'll have to sort of discuss together, but we've already kind of gone over what we might want to do in the future and started to head that way, I guess.
It's a wonderful,
I've got
positive
very good
story.
feelings about this, that's for sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.